Hello and welcome to Ticket Manager's All Access Interview Series, engaging leaders from across the sports marketing and business spectrum to identify and explore critical issues in the business of sports, entertainment, sponsorship, activation, ticketing, live events, hospitality, and even more. I'm your host, Jim Andrews. Joining me on this episode is Joey Graziano, Senior Vice President and Head of Global Event Strategy and Development for the NBA. In his role, Joey leads strategic planning, new asset creation, business development, data analytics, and process improvement for the NBA's marquee global events, including the NBA All-Star Game, the NBA Finals presented by YouTube TV, NBA Draft, and other events, international preseason and regular season games, and affiliate league events with USA Basketball, WNBA, and the NBA 2K League. Joey, that sounds like you've got a lot on your plate, and I really appreciate you taking time out of that schedule and dealing with all of that to spend some time with us today.
No, thanks for having me, Jim. I'm certainly excited to be here.
Excellent. I typically, listeners and viewers of this podcast know that I don't typically ask guests about their background, their career paths, but your story is so interesting that I'd love to have you just give us a quick overview of how you went from a kid on Long Island to playing baseball, becoming a Rhodes Scholar finalist at Georgetown, then law school in Ireland, back to Georgetown Law for a JD, stops at the World Bank and a major law firm, and then in 2019, somehow you ended up at the NBA. Can you tell us just how that happened?
No, certainly. I've been really fortunate. I was raised by a New York City firefighter, and that's been certainly instrumental to the way in which I view the world. And the rule in our house when we were growing up was to be a servant of others. You needed to run towards the fire. And my dad always said, when your neighbor's house is on fire, the true test is, do you run towards that fire? And so I have spent my career identifying fires, sometimes big opportunities, sometimes big challenges and obstacles, and have always tried to run towards those. And that has taken me on a fairly varied career, from spending a couple of years, as you referenced, in Ireland. But years before that, I spent 2 years in the Dominican Republic building a nonprofit and a charity called Baseball y Libros. I've spent time certainly where I was a Mitchell in Ireland, and then years at Jones Day, which is an incredible international law firm, and then left to become the general counsel and chief operating officer of a startup live events company called the Head First Companies that went on an incredible growth story before I ended up at the NBA, and thought we were at this seminal moment here at the league where we were making a transition and a transformation towards being a direct-to-consumer business, towards finding ways to have a more direct relationship with our fans. And that offered a lot of opportunities in how we would rethink what was possible for a league and driving fandom with the league. I always think of something that's so interesting, Jim, is one of the real differences of the NBA is it's cool to rock logo, man. What other league has that, where most of the times when you're a fan of a sport, you're a fan of a team? And that certainly is the case at the NBA. We've got incredible fans of particular teams, but it's also cool to be a fan of the league. And I think that's an incredible opportunity that we have when you work in the league office to reimagine what the responsibilities and opportunities are for the NBA.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point and something we don't think about. And I know in my work consulting with sponsors, for a long time, I think there was kind of that bias of, hey, people don't root for leagues, they root for teams. But as you said, the NBA is the exception to that rule for sure. I just want to acknowledge you talked about your dad, and I want to acknowledge that he was a 9/11 hero. He was one of the firefighters that, as you ran into the World Trade Center, and fortunately for him, he survived that. Although I know his company did not. But with that kind of background, I think it's so great for those of us in sports to have people with the variety of education experience that you bring to come to the table. And there's so many things that the list of events and things that you're involved in is long as we heard in the intro. So I just wanted to kind of dive into some of the things that you're working on, because they're really, I think, kind of fascinating and really kind of showing us where the industry itself is going. And one of the things we'll start with is you're responsible now for the new NBA Experiences platform. And you said, and I'll quote you from something I read, you said that NBA Experiences is going to throw out the old playbook and innovate in this experiential area. Can you share some of the ways that you plan to do that, or maybe you're already doing that?
I think it starts from a thesis of that we're in a dramatically different world than we were pre-pandemic. I think if the pandemic has taught us anything about consumer behavior, it's that it's a completely irrational decision to ever get off your couch. I mean, think about it. We lived on our couch for 2 years.
Yeah.
We were able to work successfully. We were able to be fed entertainment. We had opportunities to be able to eat world-class restaurants right from our couch.
Yeah.
And there is I think one of the title wins that came out was this idea of this pent up demand. There's all this pent up demand for particular events and experiences. And that was certainly true. We felt that where people were excited to get out of their house. But I think if you think a little bit deeper about what really is an event, you find that that pent up demand may be a little bit shakier than we originally imagined. Certainly when you look at right now, restaurants in major cities are down at times, almost 80%. We're seeing movie theaters attendance be down. So if you change the definition of an event, I think to something of the everyday variety, you may find that the pent up demand isn't as ubiquitous a statement as I think some in the industry have led on.
Great
And
point.
so for us, we certainly think special events are on the rise. The idea of people may in the future do less, but what they want to do with more intensity. And I think that's a really important statement that people in consumers, our fans, may do less moving forward, but what they're willing to do, they're going to do with more intensity. And I think that's the thematic of NBA experiences. And so what we have is built a premium experiential business. And so so far in our first year of seeing that, we're seeing almost 70% of our fans for NBA experiences coming from outside the home market of the event. So it's a travel business. And what we're looking to create is those custom bespoke experiences that you can only have through your fandom with the NBA and your connection to NBA experiences. So we don't want to deliver traditional hospitality and a ticket and a hotel. People have done that for years. Instead, we want to be able to offer the types of moments that allow you to express your fandom in a unique way that's tied to that event. So I'll give you an example. So at our NBA All-Star game, one of the experiences we offer is we offer our fans the opportunity to serve as stand-ins during rehearsals. So you now have fans from around the world pretending to be LeBron James as the pyro goes off and the video boards. And that's an important moment for our live production team. They need to do those testing anyway. But
Right.
now allowing that fan that peek behind the curtain, that's a moment that one, it's connected to a ticket and connected to meet and greets and connected to on-court access, certainly rounds out. But it's that special moment that makes that experience so unique. And we're offering that across our entire marquee event landscape and think it's going to be a seminal moment for us to connect with some of our most important and valuable fans around the world.
I think you mentioned to me in our earlier conversation about, you don't want to see another kind of idea that begins with, on-court photos, right?
Yeah.
We've moved beyond that. Not that there's anything wrong with on-court photos. There's a time and place for those, but we need more than that.
Yeah, and I think that's what our fans are. Our fans are craving access, and they are craving insight. And so I look at those two lenses and think, does the experience that we're building, does it offer those two things in a way that takes our fan and gives them those two levers? And if it doesn't, it may not be right for the program that we're building. We want to make sure that we are giving our fans opportunities to be able to see, experience, hear from, talk to, live through moments that they could not have gotten otherwise. And that's the bar, because I think it's just so much higher to get somebody off that couch in this new world. And if I'm me as a fan, my bar's higher. And so if we live through that lens, I think it's going to force some really creative vision moving forward.
As I'm listening to you describe those kinds of events, something occurs to me, and I'm wondering if this is a conversation that you have kind of internally at the NBA. We talk about these kinds of experiences, and a lot of them are premium experiences, right? So premium experiences come with a premium price. Is there room there when we're talking about all these kinds of things for the average fan who doesn't have thousands of dollars to pay for the kind of ultimate VIP experience?
It's a great point, Jim, and and that's why I never describe NBA experience as a premium business, because I think premium also denotes the connotation of pricing along with it.
Right.
And so what I think about the business is it's an access and insight business. And ultimately for us, that means we need to build a product ladder that allows our fans to be able to experience the event wherever they sit
Yeah.
on that product ladder. And there's multiple factors. It may be time. They can't spend certain amounts of time. It may be location. They want to experience the NBA and experience NBA experiences, but they don't want to do it from another part of the world. So we've got to be able to build content that's solely created for them, but it also may be price. And so when we think about those, there's lots of things that we can offer that allow our fan to be able to experience with an insight lens. And that may be things like NBA executives. So I have the unique ability to call on my colleagues and say, you know what, if you're at the NBA draft, what you really want to be able to feel like Woj. You want to understand the things that Woj understands at a unique level that allows you to appreciate the complexities of something like the NBA draft. And so putting together thought leaders in the space that can talk to you about the numbers behind it, the analytics that will make up this evening, how it operates. I always find something I'm always interested in is how does something like the NBA draft operate? Are there phone calls going in? Are the executives sitting in the same room? I think people want to know those stories.
Absolutely.
And so we are in a unique position to be able to tell. And many of those types of experiences aren't things that have to necessarily push the price ladder to a place that's unachievable. The other thing that we've really thought about is the way in which our fan events are delivered through this lens. And so often, if you think from the ticketing side, we have spent so much time thinking about what the right package is for our fans. What are the 4 things we should include and what's that price? And to me, in this decentralized world where personalization and customization is so important,
Yeah.
why do we make that choice? Instead, I think very dramatically, we should be letting our fans do that. In our fan event, that's one of the places where we're really able to test that thesis. So one of the things we've done is for our largest fan events, we no longer create packages in the same way. Instead, I think of it like Lego blocks. I want to create 12 different Lego blocks, like one for fashion, one for music, one for art, one for technology, one for participatory experiences on a court, one for meet and greets, one for panels. And then I let the fan choose which Lego blocks fit together for him or her. And what we've seen has been really interesting. In the first year we tested this, our average order size tripled. When we were no longer as concerned about just driving attendance, but instead we're thinking, how do we get our fans to be able to experience this at a deeper level? When we stopped telling our fan exactly what they wanted, but gave the power into our fans' hands, all of a sudden they were more interested in creating the package that worked best for them. And I think we need to see that in more of our events.
That's really interesting, and I think others who may be thinking about things like that, probably the first thought is, but boy, that's got to be kind of an expensive and a resource intense approach to things, right? It's much, in some ways, more efficient to put those blocks together and sell them as a set,
Yeah.
right? Than the individual pieces. But it sounds like what you're saying is, even if that's true, you got to put more behind that. The results are kind of making up.
Yeah, certainly for us. And again, I may not be right for every single event, but
Sure.
it's certainly right for more things than we're currently doing right now. And I think you have to be fine with 2 things. One, you have to be fine with all the different constituent parts that you build. So you've got to be comfortable with each of them as a standalone product. And then 2, you have to be comfortable that 2 people who may be sitting next to each other are having very different experiences. Right. And so often our experience has been tied to seat location.
Yeah.
So your seat location may tie the access you get to a certain club, or it may tie the entrance you're able to use, or the extra merch you get. And my thought is, why is that the only lever that can differentiate? And so again, I think our fan events, the types of experiences that they offer a more ripe testing ground for these, but I hope to see as we move forward that we carry some of this into other ways in which we're thinking about ticketing, because it certainly is giving our fans the personalized experience that they want and allowing us to do that at scale, because it is very difficult to deliver each fan a moment. That's always been the challenge. But as we think about if we can create these type of tracks, it now gives the fan personalization without us feeling like we have to have a different ticket for every single person in the arena.
You may have just answered my next question. I'm going to ask it anyway, because I just want to clarify something that you said to me in a conversation we had a few weeks ago. You said that the league wants to be a direct to consumer business beyond just content, and that meant a reexamination of the way the events are designed. So does that relate to what you were just saying, or can you explain what you mean when you say beyond content, and talk a little bit more about how that manifests?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly an incredible content operator, right? We have, and that is a big piece of our direct to consumer business, but it can't be the only piece.
Mm.
And so certainly when we see our experiences and wanting to give our fans opportunities to be able to connect with the NBA in real life through our live events, but we also think of our live events as content generating machines that there are so many unique moments that happen at our live events and these tentpole moments that we want to make sure our fans can be able to access. But it does impact how we think about them. And I'll give you an example, Jim, about one of the ways. One of our first thoughts is that if you have these moments, these sort of special event moments that fans are wanting to get off the couch for, well, then you've got to extend the rubber band. You've got to give them more experiences, more opportunities to be able. So when we think about NBA All Star, when I first came to the NBA, it was a 4 or 5 day event, a special 4 or 5 days,
Right.
but 4 or 5 days that you marked on your calendar. Now, NBA All Star is a 6 month event. So we start launching with digital experiences. We created something called our NBA Rewards Program, where we've partnered with 100 entrepreneurs in Salt Lake City around this idea and thematic of entrepreneurial empowerment. And by partnering with them, we're giving our fans an opportunity to engage with each of their respective 100 businesses. And when they do that, they are able through a AR digital scratch off. When they go into the four walls of that business, they look up, they use the NBA events app, they're able to scratch off. They can instant win prizing to meet and greets and merchandise and collectibles, but they could also earn all-star rewards points that they can then use to be able to turn them in for tickets and experiences throughout the weekend. We've also thought about and created something called NBA Ice Buckets, which is in a highly trafficked mall, allowing our fans through technology to be able to participate in All-Star in the months leading up to All-Star, not just the weeks. And so what that's done for us is it's now created this tentpole moment and given fans multiple touch points in real life in the months leading up. And that scalable extensions is crucial to our strategy because certainly there are fans who want more. And you've got to give fans opportunities to be able to express that they want more. And we think that that's going to happen certainly in content, but it's also going to happen through our events and experiences.
Again, we talk about innovation and so many examples there. I'm also just wondering how much of an impact does the actual market where the event is taking place have on things like that? Because obviously we talk about Salt Lake City, great city, but obviously very different market than say even obviously from a New York or Vegas, but even Cleveland, where the game was last year. So what impact does that have?
I mean, great ideas play. I'm fundamentally believe that that the best the cream rises to the top. But what is important is that things are custom curated. I'm a big believer that when we talk about what our original goals are for each of our events, it's to build a custom curated event that amplifies the values and vision of the league, but also the city and is temporally relevant. No one should ever be able to say that we put on this NBA All Star or could put it on again because it was that custom to the moment. And so, for example, last year when we were in Cleveland, we had this idea of how do you turn a traditional cost center into a revenue driver? And so I thought about some of our traditional costs are things like signage. And I know that our fans are always asking to be able to experience that signage. So I thought, what if signage and branding wasn't those words, but instead was art?
Mhm.
And instead, what if we treated our cities like an art gallery? And so we created something called the first ever shoppable citywide art gallery,
Right.
where all of our branding throughout the city was minted on the blockchain. And then we allowed our fans an opportunity to be able to purchase that art in both physical, where we would mail them an actual replica piece of the court, but also a digital opportunity. And what we found was it was certainly a significantly more engaging way to be able to deliver, but it offered this also now unique storyline. So what we did for last year was we told the story of all the previous All-Stars that happened in the state of Ohio through that art. So like an art gallery, each piece had to be connected to the next. And so you had to walk around the city to be able to experience that art gallery and understand why we put one piece where we did compared to another. And so I think it's that combination of interesting idea that's at the right moment for fans to be able to engage with that idea, tied to storylines that connect to the time and place. And when you do that, all three of them together, that's a really magical recipe. And I don't think that shop of art gallery is exactly the right idea this year. because I think those parts don't exactly line up in the same way they did over a year ago.
And I have to say, when I first heard about that idea, I thought it was interesting, but I was a little skeptical about the actual how many fans would actually kind of take you up on the offer and seek to purchase those. But you got some good results out of that.
We did. We were really happy with the engagement, not just because of the new revenue opportunities, because one of the things that we did with the money was we donated over $100,000 back to COVID relief for Cleveland. So it offered up another opportunity for us to show that we're socially minded at every turn, which is an important part of our fiber and DNA here at the NBA. But what it was, can we take fans on a journey? Can we offer more storylines in a city like Cleveland where people were saying, "Oh, it's too cold to be outside"? All of these pieces were outside. So could we engage you in the city dynamics in a new way? And I think that was exciting about much of the engagement that we had with that platform. And we sold out of many of those pieces that we had. So that was really exciting, certainly also from an engagement perspective.
Hey, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about international, because that's clearly a growth area, not only for the NBA, but the other major U.S. pro sports leagues as well. We're seeing a lot more preseason, exhibition, even regular season games being played outside the U.S. Can you talk about some of the business reasons for that, and also the business model you have at the NBA for your international events?
Well, certainly we at the NBA, I mean, we've been involved in international basketball for an incredible time. David Stern was certainly a leader in pushing to make the NBA a global sport. And I think we still follow his vision to this day. What's exciting, certainly, if you look at the NBA, over 120 international basketball players on NBA teams. We are a global sport, and that offers us permission and opportunities to be able to bring our game around the world. And we certainly are excited by those opportunities. Later this month, we'll be in Paris for regular seasons there. As you mentioned, this fall, we had our first games in the Middle East.
Right.
We were in Tokyo playing games. We were in Mexico last month in December. So we certainly believe in the ability to bring our game around the world. And I think it's an important moment, not just because of the game, but as I mentioned about this ability to be able to extend these tentpole moments. That's what's really exciting for me about our approach, is that we don't look at our game and say, you know what, we're bringing an NBA basketball regular season game and that will be 3 days.
Right.
We're thinking about how do we be able to extend that experience, offer touch points. How do we use NBA experiences? How do we think about our fan strategy in a way that allows for a multiple pronged connection through this high heat moment of bringing a game around the world? And that's really exciting. When we were in Abu Dhabi, we had almost 80% of our NBA experiences fans come from outside the UAE. So it's not just the ability to be able to experience the game locally, which is important, but it's also the ability for our global fans to come to those destinations, experience a game in their time zone, to be able to travel to parts of the world that they may not have experienced, to bring our players to parts of the world that they may not have been to. I think all of that together offers these rich cultural moments. And again, those are the reasons why that's what we were missing in large part during those 2 years when we weren't able to travel with as much freedom. Those are the things we needed. And I think we're excited to continue to push on that moving forward. And I would expect that our international strategy is only going to expand. Certainly, we have our BAL, or a league in Africa that's of vital importance to the growth of the NBA on that continent that we're really excited about, and we're going to continue to do more.
My background, I always look at things from a partnership and sponsorship lens. And I think it was interesting. You and I were talking, I was asking you about the Japan games in particular, because, a lot of sponsors associated with that event back in October. And I thought it was interesting that, you have a very specific kind of P&L for those types of events. And can you talk about where the partnership revenue kind of fits in there?
Our partnership with Rakuten was part of the reason we were able to bring those games to Tokyo. We certainly offered and were able to work with them to have a fan night in between the two games that we played there, between the Warriors and the Wizards, so that they were able to offer more multicultural opportunities. We had a concert experience that was a part of it. One of the moments I got to watch, like in terms of an NBA moment, I'll never forget, we did a skills competition as part of that experience, and we did a shooting competition, and watching Steph and Clay together on one team in a shooting competition, and recognizing how good they really are, even compared to the greatest shooters in the league. they're just on another level. And it was a moment that I sat there being like, I cannot believe I'm watching this. And so you think from a partner perspective, being able to have ownership of an experience like that to deliver that to some of your most important constituents, that's really exciting. That's so authentic. And so when we think about those types of opportunities, and I think our games, these platforms that we build, our sponsorship and our partnership teams, does such an incredible job of curating them to the needs of our respective partners, such that everything feels authentic to their audience. And when I was in Tokyo, it was certainly built for the Rakuten team and their respective fans and customers in a way that I thought was very custom and authentic.
Joey, can you talk to me a little bit about the nuts and bolts there? Because obviously, people who are listening to this podcast are all in the business of doing things like this. When we talk about partners becoming involved with new events, a lot of times there's an interesting dynamic between, hey, obviously we've got existing partners of the league, and we want to either protect them or make sure they have opportunity to do some of the new stuff. But also, these are opportunities to maybe bring in brands and companies that haven't really done much with the league previously. How does the NBA approach that, kind of both philosophically, if you will, but also practically in coordinating things between your team and the global partnerships group? So just take us a little bit behind the scenes there, if you can.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I think it starts a lot with one of the focuses I certainly have with some of the new entities that we're building, some of the new experiential businesses that we're creating, is it offers new assets, new ownership assets so as we think about our NBA Events app, it's a brand new digital platform. NBA Experience has offered a new experiential business with some very high net worth customers that intrigues certain partners. We obviously are thinking about new games and new places to play. All of that becomes new assets. And certainly some of those assets are right for our current existing partners. And we want to make sure we're taking care of the incredible partners we have because they're so instrumental to telling our story. But they also, what's exciting about many of these new assets that we create is it offers new opportunities to either engage with partners who may have not had the right moment for their brand to come across, even though they were fans of the league and we were fans of them. Or it may find an opportunity for an existing partner to tell a different story.
Right.
And so I think of it as it's growth. You constantly have to be growing. And part of what I look at our team and the strategy and development side on the event is that we need to continue to push to build new profitable businesses such that we can offer these opportunities for our partners to be involved. But I think it's really important. One of the things I've always found challenging in the partnership world and always felt very, very cognizant of the hard part of my colleagues' jobs in partnerships is often it's this idea of, well, do you have a partner for me? Because I can't then do this if not. And I've never believed like that's the way the relationship should work. So the way that our team and my team works and knows is we want to build a profitable business. And I want that business to be a standalone. And I want you to pretend when we build out the financial modeling, I don't want to put sponsorship on the line.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be held that is required in order for us to be able to get this idea across. Instead, what I want to be able to build the business, show its unique value, be able to tell that story and trust in my colleagues because they've done it over and over and over again. Trust them that with time, this business will find its right corporate partner who will be able to amplify that business.
Yeah. But
But it can't happen sometimes simultaneous. It may mean that you have to first launch this business, build it and grow it, and recognize that may come in year 2 or 3 of the business.
Right.
And I think that's been some of the exciting ways in which we tried to reimagine the relationship. And it starts though with creating ideas that we believe are standalone profitable through some of the other revenue streams, whether it be tickets or experiences or collectibles or merchandise that we think is going to be interesting. And it also comes through reimagining things that you could not have sold before, but with now new technology, you can. And I think about our All-Star VIP pass that we sold last year at auction, where we took something we weren't able to sell multiple years of All-Star inventory ever. But by putting it on the blockchain, we were able to offer a pass, reimagine something like a traditional seat license, and now be able to put something out into the marketplace, 5 years of All-Star experiences, which I don't even know where we're going in some of those out years. And yet we were able to find an incredible audience who were engaged in identifying in a product like that. But I think it came through some new lenses of creativity.
And the point about not basically asking sponsors to be underwriters, I think is key. And
Yeah.
smaller properties that I work with sometimes are, challenged by that, and I'll look at a proposal and I'm like, no, no, you can't ask a sponsor to be responsible for the core the core of this business. That's not what they're in business to do. This is a marketing opportunity for them, not an investment. They're not becoming a
Yeah.
partner or investor in you. And the same thing for brands. If I don't think any of them are looking for that to be that responsible, right? So I think that's a very, very sensible model to take.
And I think it offers some then really unique collaboration opportunities.
Sure.
Because then we're in a position where we really are able to find the right group to work with, but also they're able to really understand the value of what they're partnering with. And when you don't have the time pressure, I think it really frees up the relationships on all sides in a really authentic way. And so I've been very excited about making some of those changes on our side, and I think it's led to some great results.
Listen, I know I've gotten you in the run up to All Star this year. We're just a little bit before Salt Lake City, so want to just say thanks again for taking the time, and best of luck with the All Star game and everything else that you're working on. Looking forward to seeing what else is coming down the pike in terms of innovations from you and the NBA. And can't thank you enough for spending some time with us today.
No, we're really excited. I can promise you, Salt Lake City is going to be incredible. So we're the innovation is just getting started. We're going to launch some great new experiences and products in Salt Lake. So it's going to be a fun next couple of weeks.
Yeah, terrific. Joey, thanks again. And on behalf of everyone at Ticket Manager, thank all of you for watching and listening. And please join us again for the next episode in the All Access interview series.